Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Criminal Mischief, the Art and Science of Crime Fiction. I'm your host, DP Lyle. Today I got a question and answer for you. It's going to be a medical issue, but it affects crime writers and all kinds of fiction writers because you may have stuff like this in your story. The question involves smoke inhalation and how it would affect a police officer who is exposed to it. So the question is, in my story, a police officer suffers smoke inhalation while trying to extinguish a barn fire before the firefighters arrive. Very heroic of him, huh? What injuries would he have that would hospitalize him for a few hours, but wouldn't result in any long-term damage and he could return to duty? Well, you've all inhaled smoke before, probably. As a kid, you went to campfires and you got downwind, and and what happens? You hack and cough, and it irritates you. So what happens is the smoke and the soot interact with a lot of things in your body, but mainly around the head. Number one, your eyes. Your eyes get red and irritated, and they will weep. Your throat will get sore and scratchy, and you might cough, and then of course your lungs, because you are coughing and all of that. Well, what happens when an irritant contacts these tissues, and we're talking mainly about the lungs here, is they cause an inflammation and a swelling in the bronchial tubes. Those are the breathing tubes that pass the air out to the lung tissue where oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged. It will irritate them, they will swell, and they will also weep fluid. So often when you're coughing after smoke inhalation, you are coughing up sputum that can be clear, it can be whitish looking, it can have flecks of black soot in it depending upon the level of exposure and the type of fire and what the air is like. And it can also, if it's severe enough, you can cough up a little bit of blood, usually in little streaks and flecks and dots and stuff, but it can happen. Now, normally, this is a few hours you feel a little funny and then you're fine, because the body heals itself very quickly, and especially those parts of the body that are exposed to the environment, and the bronchial tubes in the lungs are, because you're taking air in and out all the time. So it heals pretty quickly. Sometimes this irritation and this fluid development in there and swelling can set up a good substrate for bacteria to set up the house. And now you get a bacterial bronchitis. That's a whole different animal. That will take a couple of weeks of antibiotics to clear, and that can be a lot worse. And that can even evolve into pneumonia, which can become a serious and even deadly circumstance. So the smoke inhalation can kick off some pretty dramatic stuff, but for the most part, it's pretty minor unless the exposure is prolonged or severe. This question, the author did not want the officer to be severely damaged, just wanted him to be irritated and have to go to the hospital. Well, he's a police officer, which means he's an employee of some government, probably the city if he's a police officer. So he's going to go to the emergency room and get checked out. It's not like he's got a choice that much. I don't think employees like that and police officers, firemen and stuff can refuse that. Anyway, he would go to the hospital. And what would they do? Well, obviously the doctor would examine him and listen to his lungs. He might hear a little crackles and a little wheezing and a little what we call coarse breath sounds, but probably not much else. It's interesting, while he's telling him to take a deep breath, the guy's probably coughing a little bit. They would get a chest x-ray, and the chest x-ray would probably be clear. It would not show anything because there wouldn't be any pneumonia. Even if pneumonia was going to happen down the road, it wouldn't have happened yet. And then they would do check the oxygen level in the blood. Now, in bronchitis, that almost never is out of whack, but it's that little thing they clip on your finger. You've probably all had that, and it reads the percent of oxygen in the blood. Normal is about is your blood should be saturated, in the high 90s. If it drops below 90, then it's serious. I don't think that would happen in this circumstance, though. So he would check out pretty well. And what would they do then? Well, they might do nothing. Just say, go home and a tincture of time will take care of this. But again, he's a police officer, so they're going to overtreat him. So they might put him on some prophylactic antibiotics for a week, and they might give him a couple of days of steroids things like Medrol and Solumedrol and Prednisone and Dexamethasone. They got big names for all that stuff. But what they are anti-inflammatories, and they more or less block the inflammation and will help the bronchi, the bronchial tubes, heal a little faster and lessen the symptoms. Uh, they're not for long-term use, but a couple of days would be fine, and then antibiotics for a week. And the antibiotics would be in the form of like amoxicillin or ciprofloxacin, one of the mycins. There's a lot of broad-spectrum antibiotics. Since you're not really sure what you're treating, you're just kind of shooting it at everything. It would be a broad-spectrum antibiotic. So what would happen then? Well, he'd be maybe in the hospital for a couple hours because things take time, and then he would go home. And they might say, well, you got to stay off duty for 48 hours or 24 hours or 72 hours or whatever their policy is. But he would be fine probably by lunchtime or by dinner time. So he would have no long-term effects. It would heal up perfectly fine. He would be able to return to duty and all the physical activity and all the things that he has to do. It would be very unlikely that he would stay in the hospital overnight for observation, and that would be only if the chest x-ray showed something, or if he was having severe discomfort, meaning he had a severe inhalation and having severe symptoms, or if the oxygen saturations were low. But in a minor smoke inhalation situation, like I believe the author wants in this story, he would be fine. He would probably go home from the emergency room, I said, in a couple of hours, and by nightfall he would be fine, and the next day fit as a fiddle. So he would return to work very quickly without restrictions. It's something that's not uncommon. Police officers, and particularly firemen, are exposed to smoke and irritants all the time. So this is not a rare circumstance. It's a great question, and I hope all of you out there who are listening can get some useful information out of this for your stories. It doesn't have to be a police officer. It can be a child. It can be your dog. It can be anything that inhales some smoke, and it has to be dealt with for your story, and hopefully this information will help you some. So that's been this episode of Criminal Mischief, the art and science of crime fiction. I'm DP Lyle, and we'll be back with some more fun and interesting and I hope informative stuff down the road. Until then, keep reading, keep writing, keep having fun, and try not to get caught.